body attitude, they're meaningful. I mean, you can see that one is happy, shy, maybe embarrassed, or grumpy. And that is a little bit like, like related to nonverbal communication. Right? But interpersonal motor coordination is also based on synchronization. And we know that since 1997, before Schmidt, the people cannot avoid being synchronized with each other. And what's interesting also is that acting morally in synchrony increase that affiliation. So on that slide, it was very brief state of art, because here the confront people are aware of that. We all know about these things. What I want to say here is, well, the interpersonal motor coordination is very important. Any social interaction, Joe. Okay? And we know that everyone follows these processes. However, some people have problems in following those processes, and because they're suffering some social deficits, such as autism, social phobia, and schizophrenia. Here we're mostly focused on schizophrenia because it's one of the most very social symptoms. But they all have some common characteristics, such as attentional deficits, social withdrawal, apathy, and our teams also show they have co-verbal communication deficits, such as less smile or less co-verbal gesture that helps speech. But also we show synchronization deficits. For example, in that handle-palm paradigm, when we ask a participant suffering from schizophrenia to synchronize with a healthy participant, what we observe is that there are always more variable in the synchrony. And they never led the coordination. So, if you look at the previous slide, I said it was very important for social interaction to take into account the motor aspect of that interaction. And here, on that slide, we see that a lot of problems for people suffering from schizophrenia. So, from a clinical point of view, what is the logic? The logic is to find a way to treat the problems, and then social interaction will be better. The problem is, paradoxically, they only focus on cognitive and emotional aspect, never on motor interaction, even less on social motor interaction. So that's goal, our work and other goal. So it's the proposed line of inquiry that will increase this social motor competences in schizophrenia. So for that, we use, let's say, it's a new concept in psychiatry, not in the other science. And the concept is that the similarity process between two systems. So how does it work? Well, you will know from here that is to say that when two systems are similar, it's more inseparable. And then, well, you know, the clock, Guegnon's clock, showing that when they possess the same frequency, they tend to be more synchronized. Okay, you can go into physiology. You have fight flight 102 that lights up, and then similar behavior in motor control. If you have more information exchange, so if it's similar, more things that are exchanged, then they're more synchronized, and so on and so on. For example, social psychology through the Gueugnon effect. If I'm in a social interaction and I'm mimicry, your posture, your gesture, then we'll increase the rapport and the synchronization. All right, so we can find more example in sense, but the point here is to say that when in general, two similar systems are more synchronized. Why don't we do the same thing with patients? So, okay, similarity, but what kind of similarity? Because we can find a lot of components of similarity. Here, focus on two. Kinetics, so basically how they move, and morphology. How we look. So, how do we do this? So the method is the same that Mathieu Gueugnon showed this morning, except patients and the avatar that I'm just going to talk to you about. The rest of the task is kind of the same. So we have patients suffering from schizophrenia and control match in terms of age, gender, and level of education. So participants are facing either similar or dissimilar avatars that I just talked to you about in the next slide. And the task is a mirror game task. So they're holding a handle that they move horizontally in one dimension along the string. And the participants are either follower or leader of the interaction. So, how do we do those avatars? We manipulate the morphology of the avatar and the kinematic. Okay? So how do we do that? So after that, we have several conditions, and the conditions is you have either everything is similar, so an avatar that looks like you and moves like you, or totally dissimilar, or the mix. So one aspect is similar, the other is dissimilar, with something controlled, but that I won't really focus on. So if we stay on the morphology aspect, okay, so how do we do a similar avatar? So we have our collaborator, specialist on cultural reality, and they design in one day, because the experiment is 2 days all the time. So 1 day to create the avatar, and the second day to run the experiment. So during the first day, they pretty fast are able to design. You can see as they resemble. So it's kind of the same face and trunk. Looks so similar avatar. And for the dissimilar avatar that we also have to create, that's kind of simple. Two confederates among all the avatar that we have. They choose the one that looks like it was dissimilar from the current participant. Okay? So, by the end of the first day, each participant has his own similar avatar and on dissimilar avatar. Okay, 2 avatars. But we have to make a move. So that comes now the kinematic part. Some way, how do we do the similar movement? So, the very first day, we ask them to do what we call solo movement. So, along the string, they improvise. And our mathematicians, collaborator in the UK, they capture in that movement the way we move. So they define a velocity profile, and they're also working on the frequency profile in order to see the avatar moving. So it's not like in a mirror when you every morning you move. Well, I mean you will see yourself. Similarity, but moving exactly is that. Here's not that. It's like the avatar moves at your own style, what we call the motor signature. Okay, so if you're someone who moves very fast, well, then you capture that and put it into the avatar to move it this way. Okay. Well, then dissimilar, that's kind of easy. You just add noise component. Okay, so by the end of this first day, 2 avatars, one similar, one dissimilar, and both either move with your style or not. Okay? So what's the experiment? The experiment is, the protocol is 2 parts. First you have the test. So the test is you are facing your avatar, and you are the participant is the follower. So I'm going to show you. So wait, the follower this one, so the leader, is in what we call a bidirectional interaction. If it is unidirectional, it's like if you do this and you move however you want, and you don't take care if the other one is able to follow you or not. Bidirectional means that I have to take into account how you move to see if you can follow me. It's the same metaphor if you're driving a car, you're the leading car, and behind you have your friend in another car. Well, if you do unidirectional, you go along here, you're basically it's like a friend, and then you keep going. Yeah, so you're with your friend and you want them to follow you, then if you see that they're too slow, then you slow down in order to bring it back into this leader-follower interaction. And that's exactly what will happen. So I'm going to show you. So here you see the participant is the follower. And at some point, you will see the participant not following. And you will here and look at the leader, the avatar is trying to bring it back into the interaction. Okay? And he was this one was the leader, but at some point I understand that he cannot follow, so I bring it back. Okay? So that's the test. And the second part is what we call exposure. Exposure is to play, to learn, to explore how to interact with that avatar. Okay? So in that case, when you're going to play, it's better to not be the follower, and that time you are the leader. So now the participant is the leader and plays. He challenges the avatar to see how it works. And you can see that the avatar can follow pretty well. So you really can explore and play with it. Well, I did it on purpose for the video to do that fast. Patients are not that fast. Alright, so the protocol, you see, it's the series of the test being exposed to one avatar, then the test, and then the other kind of another condition, etc. Okay. So what we have two questions. The first main question is, well, what is the effect, of the spontaneous effect of similarity? What is that? What happened when you face for the first time those avatars? Okay? So, what we measure is the optimal line cross variance. So it's the temporal delay, between the movement of the avatar and the participant. So basically, a perfect synchronization is zero delay. So the result is that the patient, when you face an avatar that looks like you and moves like you, then you're better synchronized. So one explanation is what we did as modern computer scientists. I can say it's because similarity is like you have more exchange of information. So that's why you get more coordinate. For psychiatrists, they say, well, when you face those avatars, like capture your attention, and that reduces, obviously, their potential deficit. That's another explanation. We have others. But what is interesting is not only patients, but also healthy participants are better synchronized with their own avatar. So what we can say, like similar morphology and kinematic, their impact on social motor performance. So we have a second question also. And the second question is, how can we, is it possible to make them even more synchronized? Okay? So for that, we come back to the protocol. I don't know if you remember. We had always pre-test, exposure, one condition, and then post-test. And then the goal is to see what happened after each exposure, how they react. Okay? And we find a way to see that we can keep increasing that synchronization, but it's only a morphological effect. So what we did is here we gather all the morphology regardless of the kinematics. So here you have the control group patient, And that is the delay. So 0 is like a perfect synchronization. And the line here is the average of that delay. So we can see 3 results here. First, on a control group, well, they were not better before or after. They were like, so they didn't increase synchronization. The second result is just about similarity in morphology for patients. And that, although, well, for the pretest, they're better post-test, you know, but they don't improve here. But the most important here is when they face dissimilar morphology, then their interaction increased. So, 2 things to remember about that grammar. First, the early stage, you know, the use of the similar avatar trigger, and that's very important to trigger a synchronization, because for patients that's one of the problem. They don't want to engage into a social interaction, and then we find a way to engage them, you know, to capture something. And then after, the second point is, well, if we want to keep increasing that synchronization, then you switch to something dissimilar. And that's actually very important for psychiatrists, because they say, well, what we want for our patients, then I don't want them to face in the street their tweet. I want them at some point to be able to interact with everyone, and everyone is dissimilar. Okay? So that's our now goal with our this big team. We try to figure out a method, a rehabilitation, to work on that 2 steps. One with, let's say, to launch a trigger interaction with similarity, and after that to keep increasing with something similar. I want to thank everyone, because it's like a big group, and thank you very much for the attention.